Um, I think we left off, please correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around 54 and 55. Gandalf and Frodo were talking, and Gandalf tells them the history of this guy, and Frodo cries, Gollum, do you mean this is the very Gollum creature that Bilbo met? Is that about where we are? Anybody? Yes?
51. Page 51.
51. Oh yeah, that's right. Go back up just a minute. When Frodo says, I wish it need not have happened in my time, and I used the George Bush reading My Pet Goat to the kindergartners and stuff, yeah. And so Gandalf says, but that's not for them to decide. That is, everybody who lives through these kinds of things don't want it to have happened in their time. I mean, people who were alive on December 7th, 1941, probably, especially those at Pearl Harbor, wish, why this happened now, you know? Same thing. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. Notice, that is not for them to decide. That's a nice way of saying we don't get to make our own reality. We got to deal with what is dealt to us, okay? And already, Frodo, our time is beginning to look black. In other words, the storm clouds are coming. What's he kind of implying? What are the odds? Slim. Okay? Not good odds that we will be successful here. With whatever the being successful would mean. Because we don't know where Gandalf is going, right? At this point, we have no idea kind of what he's really getting at. He says the enemy still lacks one thing to give him strength and knowledge to beat down all resistance, break the last defenses. All he needs is to finish the Death Star. And then, you know, he needs one ring. Okay? So, goes on, and he talks about the history of the ring a little bit, how Sauron had it taken from him, and then it was claimed by the person who took it from him, and then that person lost it, didn't literally lose it, he died, and it fell off his finger, and then thousands of years later, it was found by this hobbit-like creature named Diagal, while he was fishing with his friend Smeagol, and Smeagol said, it's my birthday, and Diagal says, I already gave you a present. And he's like, but I want another one. Notice, by the way, the Hobbit tradition of giving gifts on one's own birthday, that's not happening back at the time of Smeagol and Diagal. Diagal, in Smeagol's time, it's when it's your birthday, you get gifts from other people, okay? Maybe that's why they changed it. I don't know. So Smeagol kills him, takes the ring, and what does he use it for? Gandalf tells us. It's to steal. He steals things from people. He spies on people, other hobbit-like creatures, until they finally do what? Louder?
Shun him.
They shun him. They ostracize him. He's kicked out of the community. So he takes the ring and he goes down and hides under the bottom of the Misty Mountains, where he lives for approximately how long? Over 600 years. He's like a hobbit. He is a hobbit, okay? But he's 600 years old, at least at this point. Hobbits don't live 600 years. That's, you know, the thing about Bilbo living to 111. That's a big deal, okay? So, page 54. Gollum? You mean Gollum that Bilbo met? Back in The Hobbit. How loathsome. I think it is a sad story. It might have happened to others, even to some hobbits that I have known. Now, I don't think he's implying Frodo there. He says it might have happened. That's past tense. He doesn't say it might happen to. Watch yourself, Frodo. You know, there but for the grace of Eru Ilúvatar, the god figure in Tolkien's cosmology, go I, you know. It could have happened to Bilbo. I can't believe Gollum was connected with hobbits. However, just what an abominable notion. Why not? Why can't you believe that?
Hobbits aren't non-violent.
Because hobbits can't do that. We're nice, soft, cuddly creatures. We're not mass murderers. I mean, Gollum's not literally a mass murderer, but probably if you take the number of people he's killed over 600 years, because he's not just eating fish living down there under the Misty Mountains. He's eating orcs. And okay, orcs aren't people. Orcs are evil. One less evil, thing in the world kind of thing. But if he had his druthers, yeah, he'd eat us all, okay? Why else? What if you suddenly found out your grandfather was a serial murderer? Literally, you found that out. And not just your everyday, run-of-the-mill, ordinary serial murderer, like you find in every corner, but like 100 people.
You wouldn't want to be associated with that.
And let's take that even one step farther. He wasn't only a serial murderer who killed 100 people, he ate them. What? Because that means you're what?
You're related.
Your genetics, in one sense, are kind of tied up with those 100 people that he killed and ate. Because then he created, your father or mother or whatever, and they created you, and part of their creation came out of the food they ate. Kind of, scary when you think about it. Okay? What's Frodo trying to do here? Disassociate himself. He's throwing up what else? He's trying to make Gollum wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, other. Entirely other. Why in the history of humanity, when two groups go to war, why does each side say certain things about the other side? And I don't mean certain things like, you stole from me, I'm going to steal back. Or you killed my wife, I'm going to kill yours. I don't mean that. I mean, you killed my wife, you dirty, rotten, fill in the blank. What's the fill in the blank? It's the demonization and dehumanization of the enemy. So that in World War II, for example, the Allies did not call German soldiers or Germans. We called them Krauts. We, collectively, the United States. I'm not old enough, I wasn't alive, okay? I'm sure some of my ancestors did. We didn't call Japanese soldiers. They were called Japs or Nips. In Vietnam, the North Vietnamese were called Gooks. I mean, Japs at the very, I don't know what it would be, at the very most or at the very least. It's an abbreviation. Okay? Gooks has nothing to do with humans. Okay? So it's an aspect of demonizing. I can't believe. Gandalf, true, all the same. Their origins, I know more about than the hobbits do. Look at the same riddles they knew. That shows a familiarity and similarity. That, by the way, that's from Tolkien's study of languages. There are similar stories that show up in a wide variety of ethnicities and language groups. What does that mean? It means ultimately all those ethnicities and language groups derive from a common ancestor. That's why all the Indo-European languages have an idea of a sky father. Jupiter, okay, and Zeus, they're the same. Jupiter, the Jew, the U there refers to sky. Piter is like Pitar, Pater, Fader, father. Darth Vader, by the way, the Vader, it's father. Darth, spell it the way it ought to be spelled, D-E-A-R-T-H. It means literally lack father. Who of you knows the Star Wars mythology? What's so unique about Anakin Skywalker? He had no father. Okay? So, a little bit of etymology. So, they go on and keep talking. And Frodo's like, how did Gollum lose the ring? Why did he not want to keep the ring, etc., etc.? If he hated it, why didn't he get rid of it? Middle of page 55. I mean, the exact middle of page 55. Why didn't he get rid of it? It's like, you ought to begin to understand. That's a nice verbal way of slapping Frodo upside the head. Frodo, listen. Pay attention. He hated it and loved it as he hated and loved himself. He could not get rid of it. He had no will left in the matter. Why?
The ring possessed him.
Because any mortal that possesses a ring of power will ultimately be possessed by it. He has no will left. Okay? So he says, a ring of power looks after itself. When the ring fell off Isildur's finger, he's going to tell us, it was what? It was trying to get home. It saw an opportunity when it's like the ring is sentient and aware and has eyes. Not literally, okay? Figuratively, metaphorically. And it sees Diagon Smeagol fishing. And it kind of goes, glint, glint, look at me. And Diagon sees it. That's like, okay. Because it's been sitting in the water there for over 1,000 years. Diagon gets it. Smeagol, take me. Smeagol gets it. Takes him down under. And so the ring is buried under the mountains. And somehow the ring knows. Okay, I'm not being literal because I'm saying something I'm going to totally falsify in just a moment. Somehow the ring knows Bilbo is going to show up. And so it slips off Gollum's finger. And Frodo says, what? Just in time to meet Bilbo? Wouldn't an orc have suited it better? And because orcs are evil. Orcs aren't mostly evil. Orcs are evil. It's open. Come on. It's not open. That's a first. Yeah, just I wonder who locked it in the 5 minutes I was away. Anyways, orcs are entirely evil. Okay? To use Hillary Clinton's terms, they're irredeemable and deplorable. You can't turn an orc. They're not like, Darth Vader. They're still good in you. You try to do that to an orc and they're going to eat you. Okay? So notice, Frodo takes this how? For him, it's a laughing matter. That's why Gandalf says this is no laughing matter. There was more than one power at work, Frodo. The ring was trying to get back to its master. It had slipped from Isildur's hand, talked about that, and betrayed him. Then when a chance came, it caught poor Diagon. Notice, it wasn't Diagon caught the ring while fishing. It was the ring caught Diagon. And he was murdered, and after that, Gollum. And it had devoured him. In other words, Gollum was no longer useful to the ring. It could make no further use of him. He was too small and mean. Mean, not meaning dirty, rotten person. Mean, implying totally insignificant. Okay? So he says it abandoned Gollum. And now Gandalf gets to what he really wants to say. Behind that is, behind the ring abandoning Gollum, something else was at work. Beyond any design of the ring maker. The ring maker is Sauron. Tolkien's implying, Gandalf is implying, that when Sauron created the ring, he wove into it. He had written it into its software. If lost, try to return home. So that it gets lost and it's like, ooh, gotta try to return home, gotta find Papa. Gandalf says something else was at work beyond that, or behind that. I can put it no plainer, he can actually, he just doesn't. Than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring. mint. It's a verb, right? It means you intend something. You support something. But notice it's a verb that requires what? As every verb does. Keep an action. That's the verb itself. What does an action require?
Intent.
Keep going. You're almost there. An actor. An intendor. If he was meant to have the ring, there has to be a mean or. The or ending on verbs like actor, it's a male suffix. It's a suffix that indicates this is a male doing the acting. So literally, if we were going to write based on that, you would call me, well, you call me a professor, or I'm one who professes. Okay? If I were a woman, literally, if we were going to do that, I don't know how you would write that. I would be a professtrix, I think. Trix, okay? Actor. Female actor should be called etymologically. I'm not getting into gender and all that nonsense. An actress. Why? The RESS simply indicates the gender of the one doing the action. Now, if you want to get all confused, go ahead, be my guest. Okay? That's not sexist. It's only sexist if you say everybody should have the OR ending. Or the RESS ending. Pick. So, there was a mean or, someone who meant, who did the intending, and not by its maker. Okay? Something meant for Bilbo to find the ring, and that wasn't Sauron's meaning or intention. In which case, you also were meant to have it. So, this meanor, the person who meant this, didn't only mean for Bilbo to have the ring, it meant for you also to have the ring. And that may be an encouraging thought. Right, Frodo? You have Satan's ring, and he wants it back. That should be encouraging to you, because somebody else thinks you should have the ring too. I don't know about you. I go, hell no, it's not. It is not. I don't understand. How do you know all this? Or are you just guessing? Ooh, them's fighting words. It's like a 3-year-old asking, a multiple PhD. How do you really know? Shut up. When you're older, I'll explain. So, the correct answer to a 2-year-old, why? What is it? Because I say so, that's why. You cannot reason with a 2-year-old, okay? Frodo's kind of a 2-year-old compared to Gandalf. So, notice, Gandalf looks at him and his eyes glint. His eyes glinted earlier when Bilbo suggested that Gandalf wanted the ring for himself. With one exception, I think, in the entire novel, when someone's eyes glint, it means one of two things. Okay, there's one exception to this. The one of two things are evil. The person whose eyes are glinting is intending evil, or you really, really, really angered him. And it's like, sparks are starting to fly from his fingers. He's having to maintain control. I knew much and I have learned much, but I'm not going to give an account of all my doings to you. Why? Because he's been around for a few thousand years. And so he says the history of Elendil and the ring, etc., that's known to all the wise. Oh, you don't know? Why? Because you're not wise. Okay? He says the fire writing alone is proof. And when did you discover that? Smack. Just now when I threw the ring in the fire. Has Gandalf seen the ring in person before then? Bilbo mentioned it, but Gandalf said, hey, Bilbo, let me borrow your ring for a little bit. You know, we're going to see in the Harry Potter novels, we're going to find out that Harry has something. Let me rephrase it. Harry is given something, okay, one Christmas, that he finds out much later in the series of novels, the person who gave it to him had borrowed it from his father. Because he was kind of doing experiments with it to try to figure out what it really was, or if it was what he thought it was, okay? Frodo, wait, stop. You've seen Gollum? When, where? And so, Gandalf explains. Yeah, we found him. Oh, by the way, guess what? Gollum went to Mordor. Gollum got captured by Sauron, a.k.a. Satan in our world. And he was tortured. Torture does work, by the way. He was tortured. And he told Sauron two names. Baggins, Shire. He knows the Shire is a place. He knows Baggins is a person. It won't take him long to get on Google and find him. Okay? So, page 59. The Shire. He may be thinking of it now, if he has not already found out where it lies. Frodo, I fear he may even think that the long unnoticed name of Baggins has become important. What has he just said about Frodo and his ancestry? Yeah, you guys are irrelevant, man. You're nothing. You're nobodies. But now you are somebodies. But this is terrible. Far worse than the worst that I imagined from your hints and warnings. O Gandalf, best of friends, what am I to do? For now I am really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that vile creature when he had a chance. Right? Now, so he's really scared. He's wondering, what in the world am I going to do? And he's thinking, I wouldn't be in this position if Bilbo had killed Gollum when he had the opportunity. Back in The Hobbit, once Bilbo realizes what the ring does, and he's thinking of escaping, two options come to his mind. I can kill Gollum and just, step over him, or I can leave him alone and jump over him. Because hobbits, apparently, even when you're old and fat, can jump pretty good distance and hide. What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that vile creature when he had a chance. What does he mean by pity there? You can't answer with one word. The pity is, I wouldn't be in this position, in this situation today, if he had done what needed to be done then. Okay? It's a pity for me that Gollum still lives. Pity? It was pity, notice, capital P, that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. What is pity? And what is mercy? They're similar yet different. One's an emotional reaction, one's an action. You're driving down the road, getting ready to get on or get off a highway, and you see somebody standing with a piece of cardboard. It says, homeless, out of work, hungry family, help. That should elicit, and I'm going to make a categorical, absolutist statement. Unless you are a stone, that should elicit an emotional reaction. I would argue the emotional reaction should be pity. For an awful lot of people, it might be, get a job. People in my own family, not my immediate family, but other, right? What would mercy then be? If pity's the emotional reaction, it's empathy, M with, pathy, pathos, feeling with. Another word that means the same thing, compassion. Come with passion, suffering, enduring. It's suffering or enduring with, right? What would mercy be?
Given the money.
Given money. stopping buying food. Maybe, you run a business, offering a job, kind of a thing. There's a, I don't have time for this. Real world example, I love real world examples. Oh man, long time ago. Early 2000s, I think. There was an account of, this guy, I think in Detroit, homeless guy, sign out on the road, and somebody stopped and they listened to this guy, and the guy used to be a really successful person, got down on his luck, so to speak. But what the person who stopped to help him realized is this person was made for radio. The guy had the most amazing voice. I mean, just this real deep bear. Just exuded radio voice. The guy who does the voice for all the movie trailers, kind of a thing. And the person who did the stopping happened to be some kind of representative of a radio company, if I remember right, like Clear Channel or something like that. And they helped get him cleaned up off the street. And, I'm pretty sure for a while he made a go of it. He was doing radio announcing kind of stuff. I think later on he fell back into drugs. Okay? So that was mercy. The pity was stopping and trying and feeling something. The mercy was, what can I do to help? It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, notice, not to strike without need. What's the mercy Gandalf is suggesting? He didn't have to kill him. And so he didn't. Notice, not acting was the action he took. He could have killed him. He didn't have to kill him. So he chose not to kill him. And he has been well rewarded, Frodo. Be sure he took so little hurt from the evil. What's the evil? Finding the ring. And escaped in the end. How did Bilbo escape? He took the ring and put it in the envelope, and he himself placed it on the mantle and then walked out. Gandalf's going to tell us later, first time in the entire history of the ring that someone has willingly given it up. Or, to put it another way, renounced its power. Theme of the course. Because he began his ownership of the ring so, with pity. He looked at Gollum, and you can go back and read The Hobbit, and he thought, for a moment, like in a split second, how horrible must it be to be him? Because they engaged in a riddle contest. Gollum asked for that. Why? Because he was lonely. Here was something kind of like he used to be. Do you know riddles? Yeah. Oh, let's have a riddle. Oh, in fact, let's make everything count on the riddle contest. If you can solve my 3 riddles and I can't solve all of yours, then I'll help you out. But if you don't, I get to eat you. Kind of, put some skin in the game. Makes the game count a little bit more. I am sorry, says Frodo, but I am frightened. And I do not feel any pity for Gollum. Notice how Tolkien constructs that statement. He's sorry. He's not sorry for Gollum. He's explaining, sorriness to Gandalf for his words and for how he feels. But he says, I'm scared. He's scared whatless. Yeah, he's scared thatless. Okay? And I don't feel any pity for Gollum. How easy is it to feel pity for something you don't really know anything about? Or someone you haven't seen? I mean, yes, we can sit here in this classroom with lights and everything, and we can say intellectually, I feel pity for people suffering in Kharkiv, Ukraine. Being bombed and stuff by the Russians. That's an intellectual exercise. Do you really, in here, feel pity for that? Probably not. I mean, if we're going to be really honest, you might, again, intellectually, that's not right.
And one of those like out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. Exactly. Okay? I don't feel it. And what does Gandalf say? You have not seen him. What does he mean?
You wouldn't know.
If you saw him, you would feel pity for him. Jump to fourth book, the beginning of book 4, second half of the Two Towers. Give something away. Frodo and Sam meet Gollum. And Frodo's going to say, now that I do see him, I do feel pity for him. But there's, a lot happens between this point and that point. One thing is, Frodo's still got the ring. He's been using the ring. And what else? He's getting closer and closer to Mordor. And the ring is having a greater and greater effect on him. No, and I don't want to. Why does he not want to see Gollum? He doesn't want to feel pity for him.
Because it's his fault he's in this mess.
Yeah, partially. And why else? What does it mean if he feels pity for him? That he can kind of identify with him. He doesn't want to identify with him. Why? He's going to tell us in just a moment. Okay. What does he regard Gollum as? Evil. He's going to say, he is as bad as an orc and just an enemy. What do you do to enemies? War enemies. We kill them. Okay? We've got this screwed up thing going on in our country where our political opponents have become, and this isn't just, in the last 4 years or 6 years, this goes back at least 20 years, probably farther, to where our political opponents are kind of deemed and treated as enemies. No, we both sides, or all three, however many political opinions there are, all want, supposedly, the best thing for the country. It's just, you have this idea of what's the best thing, and you have this idea, and maybe we've got 21 different ideas. But what do you all want? The best thing for the country. That's the common goal. It's just different ways to get there. What does Frodo want? Gollum dead. Period. He doesn't want what's best for Gollum. Why? Because Gollum dead will make his life easier. That's pretty much it. I don't want to see Gollum. Because it's easier to look at someone as an enemy if you don't see him or her in the face. What is it harder to do? Well, let me rephrase that. What is it easier to do? To kill somebody from 30,000 feet or 20,000 feet or from a base in Nevada operating a drone, or face to face, hand to hand. You get messy and dirty this way. And you could get killed. You're operating a drone. You might die of a heart attack, overeating, being fat, but you're not going to get killed from that. Okay? He doesn't want to see him because he doesn't want to identify with him. I can't understand you. Not I don't understand you. I can't. Mentally, Frodo's saying, my brain is scrambled. What are you telling me, Gandalf? Do you mean to say, so let's make this clear, that you and the elves have let him live on after all those horrible deeds? Because Gandalf says we captured him. He's in elf jail. The most important word in that sentence is let. What's it mean? Allowed. If I let you go early, then you have permission to leave early. Until then, you don't. So, you can leave whenever you want, okay? So, I just let you leave. What does that mean, though? Gollum's life is in Gandalf's and the elves' hands. His life is forfeit in Frodo's mind. Okay? Now, at any rate, now, not 600 years ago when he first found the ring, not when he wanted to kill and eat Bilbo, now. He is as bad as an orc and just an enemy. What does that mean, as bad as an orc? I mentioned before, Clinton's comment about irredeemables and deplorables. Irredeemable. There is nothing, absolutely nothing good about an orc anymore. What about way back in time? Anybody know what orcs come from? Elves. They're bent, twisted, misshapen, inbred, blah, 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 blah. Elves. They're elves who have been changed from their original purposes and intents, so that now they are something else entirely. There is not a single protein in their genetic strand that is good. Everything is now tinged with evil. I mean, if you're an uber, really strong, serious Calvinist in Protestant Christianity, and you say, everyone is depraved, that's, you would have to kind of agree that there's nothing good about people, right? We'll maybe get into that a little bit later. So, and just, what's just mean?
That's all that there is.
Only. He's only an enemy. I'll go back to what I said earlier. What do you do with enemies? They're like cockroaches. Unless you're weird, like you're studying entomology, cockroaches are what? Gross. That's what they're good for. Splatting. That's it. What? It's not true, actually. They do serve a purpose in the environment. They help break down rotting, decomposing things and blah, blah. Okay? He deserves death. What position has Frodo just given himself?
Executioner?
Not quite. Two other parts, judge and jury. He's pronounced judgment, okay, based on what facts? The facts Gandalf has given him. What has he not heard? The court of law. The defense. He's heard the prosecution. What does the Constitution guarantee? Trial by jury and a, adversarial justice system. You have a prosecutor, and if you can't afford an attorney, what? The state will provide one. Too often, not a good one. The filthy rich can afford a really, really good one, but, if the feds come and get me for something, sayonara, because I'm screwed. I mean, okay? Deserves it? I dare say he does. In other words, you're damn right, Frodo. He does deserve to die. I'm with you, 100%. Many that live deserve death. Woo, that's a pretty powerful statement. He's saying there's a lot of people walking around that don't deserve to suck the air they suck. Give me an example. Not a name, unless you want to. Don't say anybody's name in here. Who deserves to die? What kind of person deserves death, execution? Serial murderers? No? Rapists? Child rapists, how about that?
Yeah.
2, 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't mean 2 and 3-year-olds who rape, because that's yeah, they deserve to die anyways, No, people who rape 2 and 3-year-olds. Vast majority of society, notice I don't say everyone, would say, yep, you do that once, you give up any right to life you might claim. Okay? A whole bunch of different things, right? I thought I saw hands up.
Sorry.
So, many that live deserve death. Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot. According to your politics, some would say George Bush, Bill Clinton, Obama, Trump, you know. Again, depending upon your politics, you're going to find somebody everywhere, right? Some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Now, we can go all touchy-feely and say, oh, he's talking about the 3-year-old who's diagnosed with terminal cancer. Everybody would say that shouldn't happen. That child should live. Or the 13-year-old. And maybe the 13-year-old's a rotten SOB. But most everybody would say, notice, most everybody, because there's probably some hard-hearted person out there go, no, let him die, you know. What about somebody on death row? Wrongly. It's been like 20 cases over the past decade or two where the person's been executed. Texas is the number one state for executions. And I don't care what your thoughts are on capital punishment. That information, data, new DNA evidence was found later that exonerated those people who were executed. Can you bring them back? Even Dumbledore is going to say there is no spell that can reawaken the dead. Okay? Then do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. Notice, he doesn't say two different things here. He doesn't say, do not be too eager to deal out death. He doesn't say that. It's do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. And he doesn't say, what was the other one? Do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. That's what the other one was. Okay? So you're a soldier. You're in war. What is your job? Kill the enemy, right? I mean, it might be other. Maybe you're entirely in logistics and you're in the back. You're not on the front lines. All right? But if you are on the front lines, your job is to take out the enemy. Why? Before they take you out. Self-defense. Is self-defense wrong? I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Incident just the other day in Ohio. Guy shows up on the doorstep of a house. The girl who lives there dumped him like a year and a half ago. She's inside with her dad. This guy comes up, starts banging on the door, says, let me in, and he starts breaking through. The father's standing behind the door, and he says, calls the kid's name out and says, leave, because you can see him on the ring doorbell thing. Leave, I'm armed, I will shoot you. The guy bursts through, and the dad puts 3 bullets in him. Grand jury said, Castle Doctrine, stand your ground, your house, your property, he was breaking through. You don't know if he was armed or not. And the dead guy's family is, they didn't have a right to do this. And the girl's going, like hell he didn't, because she'd been in a relationship with him. She knew a little bit more about him than, like her dad did and such. Don't be too eager to deal out death in judgment. Like pronouncing a judgment. He doesn't say don't deal out death in judgment. It's don't be too eager. Okay? Like, oh, this person deserves to die without getting all the facts and such. Why? For even the very wise cannot see all ends. That's this word. Okay? What does he mean? That word ends has 2 widely different meanings. Ends has the meaning purposes or intents. Okay? Like, the end of this. It's a phone. It's more than a phone now. It's to communicate, right? Just think if the NASA scientists had this in 1965 or 67. Because this had more computing power than all the computers they had, which took up like this entire building. Okay? Purposes or intents is one meaning. The other one is the end of something. It's outcome. Okay? Like, it depends upon your opinion. What's the end of this? The second one.
It runs out of ink.
Okay, possibly. I see what you're getting at. Is it this end or is it this end? Well, its purpose involves this. Okay. What's the end of this? Probably that. Its purpose comes from this end, however. Okay. So even the very wise cannot see what is really meant by this. Why things are. What's their purpose for existing, their purpose for being, but he also means the outcomes. How many of you know exactly how your life is going to go, and when you will die, and where, and how old you will be? None of us do. We might have some clues about this. How many of you ever declared major? Please put your hand. If you don't, that's fine. I mean, I switched majors like it seemed like every other semester. That's why I was a slow learner. It took me 7 years for my bachelor's degree, but then I did my MA and PhD in 5. Okay? MA in 1. So ends versus intents and such versus outcomes. Even the very wise, he says, cannot see both of these. So, get to the point. I have not much hope that Gollum can be cured before he dies, but there is a chance of it. How does that relate to ends? Well, it definitely relates to this one. Before he dies, that's our outcome. That's it. And then we're no more. Okay? What is Gandalf suggesting? Why does he bring up Gollum's cure? What's meant by cure? If he needs a cure, then he's ill. He's sick. Something's wrong with him. He is not whole. He has a hole in him. St. Augustine famously said in his book, I can't remember which one, that every human being has a God-sized hole, and they try to fill it with everything but God. And it might be in his Confessions, because he tried to fill it with wine, women, and song. Forget the song, wine and women. The guy was a lecher before he became a Christian. Like if it moved, sleep with it. Okay? He says only when you find God is that hole filled. It's not like the Jerry Maguire, you find the right person, oh, you complete me. It's not that, okay? So why does he give a rat's you know what, whether or not Gollum is cured? This is Gollum we're talking about. What did Frodo call him? He is only an enemy and deserves death. And Gandalf said, you're right, he does. But before he dies, he hopes he's cured. Why? I mean, did you just sit there and bother the hell out of you? Why does Gandalf care whether this rotten thing becomes whole, becomes well, becomes healthy? Because Gandalf doesn't want to see anything unwell, unwhole. We're going to be told much, much later that Gandalf is a steward, right? He's going to be talking to another guy who's also a steward. And he says, I'm a steward too, just like you are. You're a steward of this little land. I'm a steward for the whole kit and caboodle, all of Middle-earth. That is, every living thing in Middle-earth is my concern, including Gollum. So if Gandalf were alive today, were here today, he would say, I think, I could be wrong, entirely feel free to disagree, he would probably say, I'll qualify it, that even the hardest-hearted, worst murderer on death row has what?
A heart, a soul,
Keep going.
goodness, and
Keep going.
humanity.
For a chance to be cured. A chance to be made whole. When is the chance gone? Once you execute somebody, there ain't no more chances. Gotta get him one of these terms. I'm doing that in the entire first class. I'm sitting there, That's when. Okay? That's why. He wants Gollum made whole. What else is meant by cure? What do you do when you cure meat? Spending way too much time.
Preserve it.
For what purpose? What's another word for preserve? Louder? You're saving it so that you can, with meat, eat it later. He's not trying to preserve / save Gollum so he can eat him later, okay? But he is trying to preserve and save Gollum. Yeah, there is a theological context there. Tolkien says in one of his letters, The Lord of the Rings is fundamentally a Catholic and philosophical work, more so in the revising than in the creation. That is, after he got the drafts all written, he then started revising it. He doesn't mean I sat down and said, how can I bring the Blessed Virgin Mary and the saints in Jesus and Catholicism into here? He says it all happened unconsciously. Jesus is never mentioned throughout the Lord of the Rings. Mary, Christianity, this is an entirely pagan era. Okay? You've got to really understand what's meant by that. There is no, quote unquote, eternal hope for anybody within the world of this novel. There's no heaven that you're going to go off to. Similarly, there's no hell you're going to go off to. Well, all that's described is you go to the halls of your fathers. You die. The grave. It's it. There's no more. Now, the elves think there's more. Why? Because they know it. Some of them have been to where there's more and come back. All right? I think Gandalf is saying, I just want everything to really achieve its purposes. Gollum's purpose was not to become evil. If you read the fairy, don't go there. If you read the fairy story essay, in talking about children, he says, children are meant to grow up, not to become like Peter Pan. What's Peter Pan's problem, if you know the story?
He's forever a child.
He's forever a boy. Why? He doesn't want to take the responsibility of growing up. So he wants to play cowboys and Indians and pirates with Hook. That's why he never dies. Okay? He doesn't want to grow up. And Tolkien says not to grow wickeder, though that often happens. That is, as people grow up, they get older, they become worse. He says rather it's, to reach the appointed destination. What's the appointed destination? The end. He is fundamentally, entirely, Tolkien, Catholic. His Catholicism is in everything he writes. He thinks everybody has a quote-unquote destined end, and that's heaven, right? He wants Gollum to find his saving, as was used, his redemption, just like. And George Lucas was heavily influenced. He talks about the influence of Lord of the Rings, just like Darth Vader was. You know how at the end of the third film, Luke's dragging, Darth Vader to get him onto his ship? He says, I want to save you, Father. And what does Darth Vader say? You already have. Yeah, the body's going to die. How do we know he does? Because we get the glowy Trinity at the end. We get Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. Okay.
Spoiler.
What? Yes. Sorry. Spoiler alert, if you haven't been around since 1983 and never watched it. So, he is bound up with the fate of the ring. By the way, Gandalf's going to offer other people chances. He is the king of second chances, and third chances, and fourth chances. I think that's one of the reasons. I have no proof. I think it's one of the reasons why J.K. Rowling creates Dumbledore the way she creates him. He does the same. He offers people, we're going to hear multiple second chances. And we're going to see Harry do that. Famously to one major character. Okay? Actually, he does it to several. So, my heart tells me he has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before the end. Notice, it's his heart. It's not his brain. It's not his wisdom. He's not looking at Gollum and going, let's see, if I work this out and I move this chess piece here and this chess piece here and this, we can make it so. He's just saying, this is gut reaction, man. No proof. And when that time comes, the end, the big end, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many, yours not least. But we didn't kill him, he's in jail. Okay? So, Frodo asked, why did you let me keep the ring? Why didn't you make me destroy it? Why didn't you make me get rid of it? Are you listening to me? I couldn't make you do that. Make you, you're not thinking of what you're saying. So Gandalf tells him, okay, how do you destroy the ring? Frodo thinks, well, we can heat it up in the fire and get a hammer and tongs. Your little fire didn't even make it too hot to burn your hand. And he says the greatest fire in the world, the most powerful dragon's fire, okay, wouldn't even warm it up. No, here's what you got to do. Page 61. Only one way. Find the cracks of doom in the depths of Orodruin, the fire mountain, and cast the ring in there. If you really wish to destroy it, to put it beyond the grasp of the enemy forever. Okay, so where is Orodruin, the fire mountain, also called Mount Doom? Where's Mordor? Let's put, in terms of our popular mythology, popular consciousness. Hell, it's in Satan's backyard. So go to Satan's backyard, find the mountain, and then find the cracks of doom. And there's not a sign. It doesn't say cracks of doom, 23 kilometers, You got to find it. Because there's more than, go to a volcano. There's more than just one fissure. There's usually several openings. And so what do you have to do? You have to go there and you have to throw it in the fire. Now, it doesn't have to mean you literally go, get it off, I cast you into the fire, and you do it like that. It means you can just go up and drop it, or other ways. Frodo, shut up. Go away. Go away. It's my son calling. Where was I? Frodo, I do really wish to destroy it. And then he stops. Why? If this were a writing class and we were working on voice, like how you say something, do you make the subject really, really actively state the thing or do the thing, or do you make the subject kind of passive? Active would be like, the man drove the car into the parade of children. Notice it's a violent example. That's active. The passive voice would be, an SUV drove into, or an SUV was driven into a group of children. Who's doing the driving? The way it's often done in the media, I'm not kidding. It will be an SUV plowed into people. Somebody, Elon Musk hasn't mastered the self-driving. I mean self-driving where there's nobody in the car. There's got to be somebody there. Frodo, I do really wish to destroy it. I, the subject, wish to destroy it. Me, the agent. Or to have it destroyed. No. You take the ring and destroy it. I'm going to stay back here in the Shire and drink and smoke and have a happy life. Hobbits love to drink and smoke, if you haven't found it. Read the prologue. They like pipe weed. You can read that any way you want, you know. So, I am not made for perilous quests. Why not? Because I'm a freaking midget, for one thing. I mean, it's not like he goes, this is not the ring you're looking for. You know, you can't do that. I wish I had never seen the ring. Smack. If wishes were real, you wouldn't be here, right? I mean, let's be honest. You would not be here right now. And neither would I. I'd be somewhere else, okay? I wish I had never seen the ring. Why did it come to me? Why was I chosen? Gandalf said, you were meant to have the ring. Why me, God? Why put this in my pocket? Such questions cannot be answered. Smack. Next question. Right? Can we answer those kinds of questions? Why do those things happen? We can't. They do. Deal with it. Move on. Period. You know, when my wife was diagnosed with cancer, it's like, well, this sucks. I mean, this just really sucks. But it doesn't mean you bury your head under the covers and go, oh, go away, cancer. No, you still got to deal with chemo and radiation and whatever other stuff, you know. So, you may be sure it was not for any merit that others do not possess. You didn't get the ring, Frodo, because there's something about you that nobody else has. And then he qualifies that. At least not for power or wisdom, at any rate. I mean, he's a 2.5 foot tall creature, not much power. Wisdom, he's made pretty clear. In a box of 100-watt bulbs, he's about a 45. He's little slow on the uptake. Kind of like Harry, okay? But you have been chosen. And you must therefore use such strength and heart and wits as you have. So Gandalf is suggesting you do have strength, heart, and wits. You got to use them. Right? How do you have to approach everything? With the abilities you have. That's it. It's no good wishing for, superhuman powers because they're not going to come. But I have so little of any of these. What is Frodo starting to show us? Little bit of wisdom. He's being self-reflective there. He's acknowledging strength, zilch. Heart, okay, maybe a little. Wits, You are wise and powerful. Will you not take the ring? No. And Gandalf springs to his feet and kind of jumps away. With that power, I should have power too great and terrible. How can you have power too great and terrible? If you're good. If you're good, wouldn't more power enable you to do more good? That's the thinking in our world. Is that if you are a good person at heart, the more power you receive or get, the more good you will be able to do. Why do people run for president?
Power.
To do good. I can't think, and I don't like many of our presidents, honestly. I tend to be antisocial. I don't like many people. What do they want to do? No matter the party, each one wants to do what he or she thinks is best for the country. We can disagree with that, all right? But to say, no, this person is evil, that's going a little too far. Gandalf says, I would have power too great and terrible, and over me the ring would gain a power still greater and more deadly. Notice, I wouldn't control the ring. What's he telling us? Frodo, I'm mortal. If I possess the ring, what will the ring ultimately do? It will possess me. Do not tempt me. Why? If someone can say, do not tempt me, what are they saying is happening at that moment? Oh man, I want it. Ooh, it's like, holding a baggie of Coke in front of a junkie. Oh, you want this? No, no, I don't, Or a bottle of, good Jack Daniels or a good scotch in front of an alcoholic. I do not wish to become like the Dark Lord himself. Outcome. That is not my outcome. Gandalf has other purposes and intents. Right? Yet the way of the ring to my heart, not my mind, my heart, is by pity. Pity for what? For weakness in the desire of strength to do good. For weakness. Whose weakness? What weakness? The weakness of all those who can't do good. The weakness of ordinary common slobs who can't really change their stars, so to speak. The people who feel like they have no control over their fate. It's like, I could help those people out. And I will need strength to do good. And the ring would give him that strength. The wish, I dare not take it, not even to keep it safe, unused. Has Frodo offered that? No, he hasn't. Notice, Gandalf is revealing there part of the temptation. Take it. Just stick it in your pocket. Put it in your bag that you carry on your stick and stuff. You don't have to use it. Just keep it safe. Why? Why can't you do that? The ring. Put on the ring. The ring will speak to him. The wish to wield it would be too great for my strength. Because he might see something really bad happening, and he'll know what. If I had the ring, I could stop that. And you might say, oh, well, okay, then a good will happen. But that good will be tinged with what? Evil. Right? Imagine this for a moment. You're offered this power. And with this power, you could do some great good. But you also know that the power is innately evil. And that no matter what good you do, ultimately that good will always turn evil. Ultimately, maybe not right now, maybe not in your lifetime, maybe not in the lifetime of the people who come after you, but down the road. What do you do?
Good from evil is still evil in the end.
Yeah. It's like, I used the example in my earlier class, and I don't remember how this came up, but I said, we could solve world hunger. Right now, literally, we could solve world hunger. How? Well, there's approximately 7 billion people on the earth. I think it is, the number is something like 1 to 2 billion are always hungry. How do you solve world hunger? You know where I'm going?
Kill you all.
Play Thanos.
Oh gosh.
Oh God, what a horrible thing to say. Sherman's advocating mass, murder and stuff. You could say kill all those who are hungry. World hunger's gone. Or pick another 2 billion people. Kill them, and then what? You have more food left for the other 2 billion that were hungry before. Problem solved.
Completely randomized killing.
Okay? Minority Report, you remember the film with Tom Cruise based on a Philip K. Dick novel about algorithms to come up to determine who is going to commit a crime before they commit the crime so that the police can arrest them before. There are companies working on those algorithms today. I read an article about it like 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't BuzzFeed or Vice. It was like in some science journal. because there are certain behaviors and characteristics that show that Sakara is going to do something evil tomorrow. So we just
Yeah.
remove the situation and the evil isn't there anymore. Okay? Great perils lie before me. I can think of an instance where if Gandalf had the ring, a great peril would be like that fly buzzing around. Only he'd go, be gone. And the fly would. Okay? So, Gandalf asked Frodo, top of the next page. So what are you thinking, Frodo? I've just sprung on you, the fate of the entire world rests in that little ring that you have in your pocket. So, how do you feel? And Frodo's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, yes, I do. I need to leave the Shire. Why does he need to leave the Shire?
Because Gollum has told the orcs.
Gollum has told Sauron about the Shire. You think that's going to make a difference? You're still going to send people to the Shire to try and find Baggins. Okay? He says, I want to save the Shire. Middle of page 62. Or, I should like to save the Shire. What does he mean? I used to think that what the Shire needed was a really good earthquake, or what's the other thing? An invasion of dragons. Why? To wake them up out of their complacency. To wake them up out of their stupor. A guy wrote a book, late 80s, early 90s. No, early 90s. After the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Famous historian wrote a book called The End of History. Why? The end of the Cold War. And he thought, all the nations of the world can now turn their big, massive defense budgets, primarily the United States, into social and domestic spending. We can solve the problems in the cities, blah, 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 blah. Why did it happen? Well, February of 93, Osama bin Laden's, the Blind Sheikh, sorry, not Osama bin Laden, the Blind Sheikh, or Sheikh, depending on how you pronounce it, tried the first World Trade Center bombing, where they drove a van loaded with explosives into the garage, blew it up, collapsed, I think, one floor, rest of the building shook, and they were like, bam. Okay? And then what happened? You had sporadic little things happen over the decade of the 90s. The Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia, the USS Cole in January of 2000, or sometime in 2000, and then we had 9/11. In other words, history doesn't end. Things keep going. What am I getting at with all that? What does Frodo think he can do? He thinks he can protect and save the Shire by taking the ring and leaving. He says, knowing, while I'm off wandering, that the Shire, his exact language, that the Shire lies behind safe and comfortable. No. He thinks the Shire can exist in a bubble. And we're going to be told by somebody later on, the reason the Shire has lived in a bubble is because there are stout men standing as sentinels around it, literally protecting it. And this person says, if they should stay, my words, fat, dumb, and simple, then fat, dumb, and simple they should be. They don't need to know about the bad things happening out there. Why? Because they can't do anything about the bad things happening out there. CNN and headline news and all that kind of stuff, this character is suggesting are an evil. And I'm not talking, political slant and all that kind of. Just, what is all that knowledge? What good does it do for those of us who aren't involved in that? We can empathize. Oh, that feels bad. That's intellectual empathy. It's not in here. In here means, that's pity. In here means then what? Mercy. You got to do something, okay? So, Gandalf's like, Damn, that blew me away. I never expected that response. You can know hobbits for 100 years and never really. So, Frodo's going to leave. Who's going with him? Sam, why? Because he's not eavesdropping. This is his punishment. Is it punishment?
No.
Me? Go and see elves and all? That's like my desire. I no longer want to see a tornado. Been there, done that. Yeah. Part of me would still like to see a real tidal wave growing up near the beach, but no, I don't think so. Dragon? Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see a dragon. Okay, maybe from a distance. Or, the dinosaur. Jurassic Park with the leaf-eating ones, not the us-eating ones. Okay? So, what do they decide to do? What's Frodo going to do? Is he just packing up and heading to Mordor?
No, he's waiting till his birthday, or till the fall, or right?
Gandalf says, don't leave any later than that.
Oh,
I'll try and come back before then. Word is reached, and so he leaves. And so we get the three as company. Who are the three? Frodo leaves Hobbiton, right? He's no longer going to live there. He sells Bag in, gives it to the Sackville Baggins, SBs, by the way, like sons of. And he's going to go off and live at Crick Hollow, this house he has bought. On the edge of the old forest. This is in, where the Tooks and such live. And so who's going to go with him? Sam, because this is his punishment, and Pippin, a friend. Pippin's in his early tweens, I believe. Early 20s. Stupid. Really stupid, right? And who else? But this person isn't going with them. This person's gone ahead with supplies. Mary, okay? So they get there, they get to Crick Hollow, and the conspiracy, next chapter, is unmasked. After the chapter Shortcut to Mushrooms, we're skipping Farmer Maggot. What's the conspiracy? They arrive, and it becomes known to Frodo. They all know about the ring. Why? Because Mary says, the number of times I saw old Mr. Bilbo walking down and somebody coming towards him that he didn't want to see, and he just magically disappeared. I knew there had to be something else. Okay? So the conspiracy is unmasked, and the conspiracy is some of them are going to go with Frodo to Rivendell. He's going there for advice and counsel. Fatty Bulger, the fifth member of the company, Fredegar Bulger is his name, okay? He's going to stay behind and make it look like everybody is still living there at Crick Hollow. So they got to make their way to Rivendell. And they can go the long way or they can take a shortcut. Never take a shortcut. They go through the old forest. Mary says, well, we brandabucks, we've gone into the old forest before, no problem. So they go into the old forest, and what happens? Almost immediately, they get lost, okay, and they get eaten, Merry and Pippin, by Old Man Willow. Big old willow tree literally swallows them. And Frodo's like, help, help. Tom Bombadil arrives. Here's where we're going to get bogged down. Who is Tom Bombadil? Okay.
A wonderful singer.
Could be.
Loves the city.
Tolkien had written a story called The Adventures of Tom Bombadil in the late 40s. Tom Bombadil had nothing to do with Middle Earth. So Tolkien's writing on along, and he's kind of like, hey, this would be a good place to drop in Tom Bombadil. He just drops them in. Okay? So back to my question. Who is Tom Bombadil? In the house of Tom Bombadil, page 131. They're sitting there, they've been fed, they've been drinking beer, and they're feeling good. They're falling asleep. Tom Bombadil is telling history/stories. Pretty much the same thing in Tom Bombadil's telling. And Frodo asks, when they kind of wake up, who are you, master? Middle of page 131. The exact middle, Tom goes, what? sitting up, because he like fallen asleep, his eyes glinting in the gloom. This is the only instance in the entire novel, I believe, I may be incorrect, that the verb glinting is used in a not negative context. That is, Tom doesn't intend evil, like, oh, if only you knew who I was. I'm an avatar of Sauron. Doesn't do that. Don't you know my name yet? No, that's why Frodo asked, who are you? Notice, it doesn't mean, I'm Tom Bombadil, hi, nice to meet you. That's the only answer. What? They're hobbits. Frodo and such. Tom is not. They ought to like riddles. Tell me, who are you, alone, yourself, and nameless? Okay, now you could say, who are you alone? Like if I'm sitting in my study at home and nobody else is there, I don't suddenly become nameless. So, who are you, alone, yourself, and nameless? Where'd you get your name from?
Parents.
Not a hard question. Thank you, parents. Where'd they get their names from? Their parents. And you just keep going back in time. You are dependent for your name from your parents. Dependent. D from pendant, like hanging. You hang from, your name hangs from your parents, just as your existence hangs from, came from your parents. All the way. None of us are, in that sense, what then? Alone. We all depend upon somebody else. And we still depend today, right? Imagine this is gone. That's going to happen in a lot of Europe this winter. I mean, they're talking about massive energy shortages so that people are going to have to decide. Like people in Germany and Poland and England, supposedly first world nation. Do I heat the house or do I cook a meal? I mean, it's going to be that dire because of what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Okay? You're dependent on others. So who are you, alone, yourself, nameless? Well, Frodo's not any of those things, right? Because he was given the name Frodo. He doesn't, well, what's my real name? No. You are young and I am old. Eldest, that's what I am. Mark, okay, eldest, what does that mean? Is there an eldester? No, there's not. Mark my words, my friends. Tom was here before the river and the trees. Tom remembers the first raindrop and the first acorn. He made paths before the big people, saw the little people arriving. He was here before the kings and the graves and the Barrowites. When the elves passed westward, Tom was here already, before the seas were bent. Pause. At this point in the world of Middle Earth, the world is round, like our globe. A long time ago, several thousand years ago, the world was flat. You could go from Middle Earth, get in a boat at the Grey Havens, exact same place that is there in the Shire today, get in a boat and go across the Western Sea. And you could sail and sail and sail and sail and sail, and eventually you would arrive in Valinor, the home of the gods. Right? You can't do that anymore. When the elves go to Valinor now, go to the Grey Havens, they get a boat, they start on the sea, and at some point, they leave Middle Earth. They leave the round ball because Valinor isn't there anymore. Okay? Tom says, I was here before this happened. But he's been there even longer than that. He knew the dark under the stars when it was fearless, before the Dark Lord came from outside. The Dark Lord that he's referring to is Melkor, a.k.a. Morgoth. He is the highest created angelic being in Tolkien's cosmology. In the Silmarillion, you get the creation of the world. It starts with Eru Ilúvatar, the one God. And that Eru Ilúvatar creates this group of beings that are called the Ainur, A-I-N-U-R, Okay? And he gives them each a song to sing, and they sing these songs, and all that they sing is what all this reality becomes. So, he doesn't like the song. So he introduces a new sound. Here's his new sound. It's like me singing. Put that in any music, and what are you going to use? It's not music anymore, right? It's jarring noise. Nathaniel, go away. Stop it. Okay? We're out of time, almost. So, he comes down from heaven into the world of Arda. That's the universe, the entire universe that is made. Tom is saying, I was here before Morgoth came down in the world. The only problem, in the Silmarillion, nothing was there. So, what is Tom? Some people suggest, I kind of agree with this, Tom's a manifestation of Eru Iluvatar. Go back and read Genesis. And the Spirit hovered upon the face of the earth. It's kind of like Tom. Okay? Tolkien says in one of his letters, Tom is merely a spirit of pacifism. Not going to get involved. Not my problem. But we're going to see a little bit later. Okay? Okay. We'll stop there. We're going to very, very, very briefly on Tuesday talk about what happens in Fog on the Barrow Downs, pages 146 and following, because we have to mention something, just one little thing that happens. The hobbits are given something. It's going to be very, very, very important later on in the novel. And then we'll pick up and we will finish. Okay? I almost said 2 towers. Fellowship of the Ring on Tuesday. I'm going to go ahead and put up a